agenda this month, so I wanted to get started right on time. Just to give an overview of our agenda for today, and then we'll get into it. I'll first quickly review our current COVID data. Then we'll have a presentation from Tech Flares, which is the organization that's doing our enabling technology initiative within DDA. Donald Clark will introduce those folks. Then Peter Steffen from the Office of Disability Rights will talk to us about the Olmstead Plan. And then Kevin Wright from the DD Council will talk about an initiative there called the Judith Campaign. And finally, Winslow Woodland from DDA will provide an overview of the new Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services Access Rule. So starting with our COVID data, we unfortunately, like the rest of the country, have seen an uptick in COVID in the month of July. We had only 3 COVID cases in June, and that was up to 21 in July. For a total from the beginning of the pandemic of 884 people supported by DDA who have tested positive for COVID. By facility type, those have been 1 person in a corrections facility, 27 in host homes, 164 in intermediate care facilities, 1 in a mental health facility, 207 in natural homes, 2 in a nursing home, 7 in out-of-state placements, 66 in a residential habilitation placement, and 409 in supported living. Of these people, we had 1 person in June and 1 person in July who required hospitalization for COVID treatment. And fortunately, to date, people who've been diagnosed with COVID and have had a confirmed COVID death, we have not had that since September of 2021. So I will now turn it over to Donald Clark to introduce our speakers from Tech Flares.
Thank you, Dr. Reese. I appreciate it, and good afternoon, everyone. Really thrilled to be here today and be discussing the Enabling Technology Project that we've officially kicked off. This has been 2 years in the making, and what this project really aims to do is to enhance the lives of people with disabilities by improving how they identify and access tech tools that will assist them with reaching greater independence. And this project really aims to address the challenge often faced when it comes to tech exploration and having the confidence in making the right decision amongst various tech options, which is often an overwhelming process in itself. You can only imagine this becomes an even more overwhelming challenge for people with disabilities and those that support them. Improving access to the appropriate tech can significantly impact daily life, independence, and overall well-being of the people we support. This goal really aims to bring forth an innovative approach to tech exploration and matching. And as we all have heard over the last 2 years, AI has taken over, and we're really looking to leverage the AI platform by customizing it and utilizing it to match people with disabilities to tech tools in a truly person-centered way that will enable them to thrive in their homes, communities, and workplace. To help us achieve this goal, DDS has partnered with Tech Flares, who's here today, who has brought forth a team of experts that have a wealth of experience in supporting people with disabilities with exploring and implementing and using technology. Today we have with us Jason Ray. He's been active in this field of enabling technologies and remote supports since 2008. Just to imagine that some states have actively been pursuing technologies and remote supports to promote the independence of people with disabilities. Jason has been a consultant, national speaker on these topics, and received the Stephen Sally Excellence in Technology Award, and has also supported people with disabilities, older adults, and veterans with person-centered tech exploration and implementation. Today, we also have Harold Sloves from Tech Flares, and Jason and Harold are leading the charge with this project. And Harold brings extensive experience as well as a consultant in this field around technology and innovation. And in fact, he previously was a director at the Division of Programs and Innovations at Tennessee's Department of Intellectual and Developmental Disabilities, and was really responsible for standing up that state with its Tech First efforts, and also bringing fellow Tech First states together to meet on a monthly basis as well. So really happy to have them here, and you'll hear more about this exciting project and how we're trying to innovate, how we access tech and help people explore and match them to it. So please welcome Jason and Harold. Thank you.
Thank you for that introduction, Donald, and a real honor and pleasure to get to speak with everyone in DC, and excited to see a ton of engagement and the number of people. You know, Harold and I both get an opportunity to speak to states all across the country, and you know, not always do we see this kind of engagement from the provider network. So that's exciting to see. So I think we have a presentation queued up. Do you mind going ahead and sharing that? And while that's getting pulled up, I'm going to echo a couple of the things that Donald said. You can go ahead and go to the second slide there. Around the challenges that we often see with tech utilization. So Donald mentioned the matching, and we'll get into more about exactly what we're going to be executing with this project in just a minute. But one of the biggest barriers we see to utilization is just knowing what is possible and how to connect available resources with outcomes for people. So we're really trying to address that problem, both with the technology solution and in-person training, support, and guiding people at DDS and the provider community through this process, and really just helping to integrate technology, again, as Donald mentioned, in a person-centered way. There are so many tech tools that are out there, and I'm sure you are all aware of them. You know, many of us, if not all of us, have some form of tech integrated in our own homes, or we use tech on a daily basis. And the impact that that can have in the lives of people that we support is really tremendous. And so finding ways that we can open those doors and really share what the possibilities are is one of the primary goals of what we're trying to do. Next slide, please. So I'll just introduce a couple of other members of our core team here, and Harold, feel free to jump in as well. But we have the team from Tech Flares is led by Shalmi and Jay, the CEO and CTO of Tech Flares. I believe they're on the call with us today. I don't know, Jay, if you want to say anything about yourselves.
Hi, thank you for giving this opportunity. I'm immensely honored. My name is Jayant Kumar, and I'm the CTO from Tech Flares. You know, we are excited to embark on this journey, and we want to do a fantastic job in getting the technology to the right people at the right time. Thank you.
Sorry, I muted myself there. Thank you, Jay. We also have a representative from RCM of Washington, a provider in the district, Juliet Prelo-Michael, who is on our team to help give guidance from a provider perspective with a lot of the solutions we're developing and how that's going to work. And Harold, do you want to talk at all just briefly about the Tech First Alliance and what we're trying to do there, and why we are brought in as the SMEs?
Sure, absolutely. Thanks. Thanks, Jason. First, I'd just like to say I met a lot of you a couple of years ago at your first Technology First conference. So this is kind of a happy moment for me to be back and see where you are and hopefully play some role in moving forward. The Tech First Alliance, the Technology First Alliance, is a nonprofit. We consider ourselves a think tank and consulting group. And our primary objective really is to promote, guide, support what's often called the technology first movement, but really it's a framework. And frankly, it can be both. So that is our role. We're engaged with DC, and we also are doing work in other states. So this is really part of our passion. Jason, just like to add one thing in terms of why I'm here, and that is, this is both a person-centered and AI project. So we are committed to not losing that person-centered component and priority, excuse me, in merging those two, curating those two, to come up with a process that is AI driven, but also the underpinning of it is about people. So I just want to be clear to say we're not going to lose that. That's essential for this to be for this to go forward with that kind of essence. Thanks, Jason.
Absolutely. You hit the next slide, please. If my timer's right, we have about 11 minutes left, so we want to dig into more of the core of what the project is going to be to help give everyone a little more depth of knowledge in terms of what we are actually going to be executing and providing as a part of this this project. So the overall project goal, Donald outlined this a little bit earlier, is really to connect people who could benefit from technology with technology options in a way that's both person-centered and hopefully streamlined to overcome a lot of the barriers we see with adoption from, again, knowledge of what exists and how to build that into someone's care plan. So the major project summary deliverables, and we're going to talk more about those in depth in just a minute, are, as Harold just alluded to, developing an AI-driven assistive technology matching application. So this is a web-based application where we will be inputting different data points from a care plan that exists to start to make recommendations about technology solutions that can benefit individuals to see if it's going to be a good fit. And from that, there will be technology assessments also completed once we get through that initial phase of screening as a part of the AI tool to identify more clearly what the exact technology components are, and then also building that into the support plan and making sure that those technology solutions get implemented and supported. So that's kind of, in a nutshell, what we are tasked with doing. And that initial cohort will be 75 people participating. So next slide, please. So these are the core activities. Mentioned these in just a little bit on the previous slide, but want to dig deeper into exactly what those things mean. So we have an AI technology platform that currently exists that houses a huge database of different technology options. And the main goal and purpose behind that is to be able to inject relevant information from each person supported to match them up with different tech options. So there will be some customization to that platform based on the tools that DC currently uses and the way that will work. And the goal from that, again, in step 2 will be to match them up with that technology service. And the end product that the technology matching tool will create is a technology integration plan for each person. So our team will be working with service coordination in DC to assist with the assessment process, the setup of each individual's profile in the system, as well as the matching and getting all of that built out so that at the end of this process, an enabling technology integration plan, which is, if any of you have gone through Shift education, is one of the foundational resources that Shift utilizes. I know there's a number of providers in the DC network who are accredited Shift providers. So it will be familiar to those of you who have already gone through that. using the same tools and a lot of the same methods that you are already familiar with if you've gone through any tech training prior to this. Harold, do you want to say anything else on that?
Well, the only thing I would add at this point is, as your previous slide showed, we are trying to reach 75 people through this project in terms of assessment, integration, and planning. And there are a lot of providers on this call right now. So the likelihood of everybody hearing from us is very low, but many of you will. And just full disclosure, we are currently in the process of defining who we will reach out to and which providers and that kind of thing. And there'll be further communication coming out about that. But I did want to alert you that you'll be hearing, some of you will be hearing from us, but all of you, I hope, will be hearing about the work we're doing. Thank you.
And there's a question in the chat relevant to what you just said, Harold, in terms of how are the initial 75 getting selected. So there are some initial criteria that participation in this project is predicated upon based on how it was outlined by DC. And first and foremost, that is someone has to have a lawn score of a 0 or 1. And then we will be basing additional priority on a number of other criteria Harold just alluded to. We're mapping that out right now. But the foundation is we're going to be identifying people with a lawn score of 0 or 1. And then there will be a number of other variables that we will take into account, like when is their ISP renewing, any current utilization of technology. There'll be a number of different factors that we'll use to create prioritization from there. And we are also welcoming people who are excited and interested in technology utilization. So if you happen to know of someone, we would love to have people join and reach out for more information that are excited about the use of technology and ready to have technology supports.
Jason,
Moving on. Yeah, go ahead, Harold. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, just to amplify what you just said, there's really 2 steps. One is what Jason referenced, and I'll call a screening, and that is to identify people who really want to do this. Our role is not to convince people, to persuade people, certainly to educate, but we are trying to identify people who really are interested and supported to go forward. So that's really phase 1. Then we move on to the assessment phase, which is much more in depth and detailed, that kind of thing. So I say that just to sort of give you a perspective on the steps that we'll be taking just to get started.
And Carol, I'll put a link in the chat after we get done presenting based on your follow-up question there. If you don't mind just going back one slide real quick, last thing I want to say on that is once we have developed a technology integration plan, the final phase will be helping to guide the technology acquisition and implementation process. So making sure that the technology is sourced properly and implemented properly, but most importantly that individuals utilizing and benefiting from technology are trained, understand how it's to be used, as well as their support teams understanding and being trained on how technology is being used. So it's not something that just gets thrown in and then 2 months from now becomes a paperweight. Utilization and sustainability is really key, and that's really starts with training and then finally support and maintenance, making sure that there's ongoing support down the road as well. Sorry, next slide. So our timeline is pretty short on this project. We have already started work. We began earlier this month on July 1st. We've broken this down into quarters. This project does end March 2025. So we have about 9 months to get all of this up and running. The AI tool that we are building upon is existing, and we are providing our adaptations and customizations to that as a part of this work. So that is actively underway, and that's one of our primary areas of focus as we get the project kicked off, because we need those things operational so that we can start the screening and matching process. As well as a parallel task to that, it's the identification and screening process starting so that we can identify those 75 people as soon as possible, because it will take time to coordinate and go through that process with all of those people. So we want to start that identification process as soon as possible, and that's the phase we're in right now. Moving into the next quarter of the project, so that will be starting this October, will be really starting to utilize the AI customization that has been done in the first quarter, and start the AI matching assessments and completing that for at least 35 people as our goal by the end of the year. And then as we move into next year, again, first quarter of next year, that will be that the AI application development is finalized. So once it's completed, what we're going to do is we will have a bit of an iterative process of testing things, making sure that it's working as we anticipate, doing updates, and we plan to have that finalized as we move into the beginning of next year, as well as finishing up the additional 40 tech matching assessments and implementations in the next quarter. Next slide. And wrapping up, we've got about a minute and a half left in our time here. So really just wanted to underscore the fact that this is really just a starting point. What we hope really comes out of this is a couple different things. One, ongoing utilization. So this is a tool that we hope will become an active part of the planning process by service coordinators in the district, even beyond the timeline of this grant. So as we're working through our tech assessments and matching process, we'll also be training the service coordinators within the district to have the capability to take this over and run with it in the future. So ongoing utilization by providers and DDS is certainly one of the goals of the project, as well as driving future innovation and development. So we think that this tool has a lot more that can be done with it, from an integration with other systems standpoint, as well as when new ideas and new features come up from people who are using it in the district, those can be developed to further streamline the support planning process in the future. So Harold, do you have any final things to add, or Donald?
Well, Jason, you covered it, but it's a great point to say that this is going to continue to evolve. This is not a static thing. We get to the end of March, it's done. The potential is there for it to grow with the district's interest and involvement and refinement of what we leave behind. So it's a cliche to say that AI is evolving very quickly, but the truth is it is. In our field, it's an infant. And I think that there's just great promise if used wisely.
And the final thing I'll say is that this is the first communication that you will hear about this, but not the last. So for those people who are asking about more information, stay tuned. We will have other forms of communication out for you to learn more about this project. So stay tuned for communications from DDS on more details. Yes, Harold.
Jason, just your thoughts of leaving our emails behind in the chat if there's any interest in outreach, or is that
It's like this thing?
Okay.
What would you like us to do on that, Donald?
Yeah, if you have an email address, even that's a general one about the project, or someone who can funnel that in, so we can have all those questions, that would be ideal.
You got it. We will coordinate offline, and we'll stay on for a minute, provide the link that was asked for earlier and the best contact. So we'll get that here in just a minute.
There was one other question, Jason, where someone asks, are people in residential settings and natural homes eligible?
Donald, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, sure. This was originally 2 years planned. As a result, it's no longer that, and we have to work within the time frame we have. So we have to figure out a way to have a sample size that's achievable within the time frame we have left. So right now for this project, we are looking for people in supported living settings with those lawn scores to 0 to 1. We have the timeline we have to work with, and that's the best way for us to approach this.
And Donald, sorry, did you see how are the initial 75 people being selected?
Yeah, Jason, did you want to repeat kind of that criteria?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so what Donald alluded to in terms of the initial criteria, the lawn score of 0 1 and the supported living environments, those are kind of the foundational things that we are going to build upon. And then there are a number of other variables we will be using in the screening process. Prior tech utilization and comfort with using tech, their support system. There's a number of variables, including when their ISP plans renew. There'll be a number of factors taken into creating a priority. And one important factor will be interest and excitement around tech. So if you know of someone that's interested, that you would like to participate, as we get more information out, make sure that you reach out and say, hey, I have someone that could really benefit and is really excited about this. And we'll see if they match up with the criteria.
Jason, one other clarification or factor to consider for those who are in supported living, and that is when one person is excited about it, it would be really good if that person's roommate or housemate was also excited about it. That's really important. And so I just wanted to, share that consideration. This is not, this is about where people live. And when I say people, I mean, whatever the housing unit is, housemates, roommates. So please include that in your considerations.
Thank you very much. I just want to say, Jason and Harold, this is more questions than we've typically gotten. So there's clearly lots of interest in this project. And this is a pilot, so people are aware. We're rolling this out. And what we hope to see then is it's pilot's going to give us the information we need to be able to roll it out fully for all people in the waiver. But it's initially this pilot. And we will be inviting you all back to talk more about it as it gets launched and things get moving. So thanks a lot for joining us today.
Thank you, Director. Next
up, we have Peter Steffen from the Office of Disability Rights to talk briefly about the Olmsted Plan, and I think to provide information about soliciting input.
Awesome. Yes, thank you so much, Director Reese. Let me share this brief PowerPoint, and everyone should have access to this in case you want to review it on your own time at your own pace. My name is Peter Steffen. I am the Attorney Advisor for the District Office of Disability Rights. And our office is tasked with ensuring compliance among district government agencies with the ADA and related disability rights laws. Part of that work is ensuring that the district has a plan to provide its services for people with disabilities in the most integrated setting, which is most often the community. And so I wanted to just give you an overview. We've had a plan for years and years, but every so often we revise the plan to account for changes in the circumstances, environment, and with agencies. And so we are in the process of updating the plan for the next 3 years, for the years of 2025 through 2027. And this is a year-long process. We're about halfway through, as you can imagine. And so we have a first draft that has been put out on our website and in the register to solicit feedback. And that's why I'm here today. I want to just briefly go over kind of what an Olmsted plan is, what it should be, and what is in our first draft. Of course, my PowerPoint is a brief summary. It is not the full plan, but I'll let you know where you can access that. It's on our website. And, you're welcome to give feedback now or via email or by calling us. Really, anyways, is great. So without further ado, yes, let me just also take a moment to acknowledge and feature piece of artwork that we purchased from Art Enables. It's done by an artist, Jacqueline Coleman, who is an artist that works there or works in that space, and it's just a fantastic example of the kind of integrated services for people with disabilities that can result in amazing work. So without further ado, let me move on. What is an Olmsted plan? Right, so like I mentioned, we are in charge with ensuring compliance with the ADA for the district government, and Title II of the ADA requires the district government to provide or make services available in the most integrated setting appropriate for people with disabilities. So the plan is both a responsibility that the district has and an opportunity to improve services across many different agencies for people with disabilities to live and work in the community. And there's a picture here, courtesy of Disabled and Here, that features people with disabilities discussing and sitting around a deck. So why do we need an Olmsted plan? The Olmsted plan helps the district demonstrate it is complying with the integration mandate of Title II of the ADA, and ODR is required to create and maintain an Olmsted plan under district law. Again, there's a great picture from Disabled in Here of two people, one in a wheelchair and one with a cane, smiling for the camera. So we have a number of agency partners that we are working with, 24 in all, DD Council, DACL, DBH, DDS, of course, DHCF, DMHHS, DCPS, MODA, HCMA, DHCD, DHS, DOES, a lot of them, right? And so we are working to focus on 4 priority areas for the next 3-year plan. One is housing, the second is healthcare, third is employment, and the fourth is transportation. And so if you want to look at all the details of the first draft, right, is not final yet. We won't have a final draft until the end of this year. But if you want to look at the first draft, it's available on our website, which is odr.dc.gov, and it's linked under our Olmsted page. But let me just briefly go through the priorities and just explain what our guiding principles are and the goals. I don't know if I'll have time to go through all the metrics, but the guiding principles for the Olmsted housing priority are based on enhancing or improving opportunities for community inclusive living, right? So that people, district residents, can live in neighborhoods or communities of their choosing, and district residents can transition to community-based housing that meets their needs, right? So how do we propose doing that? Through these housing goals, right? Increasing access and opportunities to affordable, fully accessible, community integrated housing for people with disabilities, improving transitions from institutions to community-based housing, and increasing inclusion and independence of people with disabilities through advanced technology solutions, not unlike the presentation we heard earlier in this forum. So through assistive technology and remote supports. Okay, so again, I will, in the interest of time, I won't go through all of the ways that we're measuring these, this work to improve these or to reach these goals. But again, you're welcome to review them on the PowerPoint and on our actual plan. The healthcare priority, the vision is that district residents are supported in their transition from facilities or institutional settings to home and community-based settings like their own home. And then also that they are provided quality, person-centered home and community-based services that are necessary and are provided so that they can live and remain in the community. And so, right, again, I'll let you review the details on how we're proposing to, or strategies to achieve these goals. For employment, the guiding principle for the Olmsted employment priority is to increase access for district residents with disabilities to integrated and competitive competitive and integrated supported employment based on a person-centered planning and informed choice model that meets the individual's preferences, interests, needs, and strengths. So we propose to do that through a variety of strategies, of goals. One is improving classroom inclusion and employment opportunities for students with disabilities. Improving and enhancing the seamless transition, right, for students with disabilities from secondary school into post-secondary education, training, and/or employment. Reviewing and realigning, if necessary, the structures for the district's workforce development system, right, just to better support people with disabilities. Increase hiring, retention, and promotion of people with disabilities, particularly among district government agencies. And then increasing the number of people with IDD and mental health disabilities who obtain and maintain employment, right, through better coordination of supported employment services with DDA and DBH. Again, these metrics will detail how those are proposed to be accomplished. And then finally, our transportation priority has the vision that district residents with disabilities have access to the services, programs, and activities of the district by ensuring safe and fully accessible public rights of way and timely, efficient, and fully accessible modes of private and public transportation. That's a lot, so let me break that down. It's three main goals: improving access to the public right of way for people with disabilities, right? Things like improving and increasing the rate of sidewalk repairs and curb cut remediations, audible pedestrian signal installations, and then two, making significant improvements to transportation services provided to students with disabilities, ensuring that students get to school on time, for instance, and then making significant improvements to the daily transportation services offered to adults with disabilities. Working on ways to enhance the accessibility of the taxi cab fleet, among other things. Again, those details are in the metrics and strategies. So I just want to offer an opportunity for feedback on the spot here. With anything that resonates with you from the current draft of the plan, what, if anything, you feel might need to be added or changed, if anything needs to be changed? Or if you just have other thoughts, I welcome them in the moments that we have. I don't know how many minutes I have left, but if not now, we always welcome written feedback via email, or you can call us, and I will drop our contact information in the chat, but this is my direct contact information. And with that, I will stop sharing so I can see the Zoom.
Hello, everyone. So I guess it's my turn now. So,
well, but Kevin, before you move on,
let
me turn it back over to Director Reese, and then I'll let him take the reins here.
Sure.
Thank you very much, Peter. And the link to the plan is in the chat for anyone who wanted it. As always, all the presentations will be on our website as of next week. So next up, Kevin with the DD Council is going to provide us a presentation about the Judith campaign.
Hello, everyone. My name is Kevin White. I'm with the DC Developmental Disability Council. It's an honor to be here. I know that this week for us, we was at our annual conference known as the NECDD conference. It's an annual conference that all 56 states and territories had to meet, just talk about what each states are doing in the DD Council. And for those who doesn't know the acronym from the NECDD, it's a National Association of Councils on Developmental Disabilities. So that's what it stands for. So, I think I need rights to share. Okay. So I'm about to share a brief PowerPoint with you all. So I hope you all can see it. So I put this on here because, as many of you all know, this month is Disability Pride Month. And just a little bit of history. Disability Pride Month is celebrated each July to honor the history, achievements, and experiences of disability community. It also recognizes the annual of the Americans with Disability Act, which is known as the ADA, signed into law on July 26, 1990. And basically, today is July 26. The first Disability Pride was held in Boston in 1990. And the first Disability Pride Parade was held in Chicago in 2004. And then the official Disability Pride Month was celebrated in July 2015, which was the 25th anniversary of the ADA. So this is like quick information I just got from Google. It's really disappointing because basically it's important to me is because it pretty much honors us, including myself, who have IDD, so intellectual or developmental disability, just to be recognized. This is showcase that like, this is showcase all our accomplishments and just to feel that like, we could thrive. I think that that's really disappointing to myself and to my disability community for this month. So that I basically we could be put into these opportunities just to like represent, even talk about achievements, talk about recognizing the accomplishments that we've done, etc. And fun fact, I never knew that Disability Pride Month was a thing because the schools I went to never mentioned it. So how I got familiar with the Disability Pride Month was during my time at DDS and during my time here at the DD Council. So on that note, so you got the Judith campaign, honoring Aboriginal voices, honoring truth. So this is a unique campaign that like I pretty much pitched last year. I know that like doing conversations with my team, doing conversations with the Employment First Leadership Work Group, that like it was a sense that like many people, many organizations wanted to do a public awareness campaign. Rather than not it be like inclusion campaign, having like a road show of just highlighting individuals with disability and just showcasing their work. Like there was a sense of a communication public awareness campaign that like people, many organizations wanted to float around. So I pitched this idea to the executive director, Allison White, about it. And honestly, I was afraid because I know that like all last year, well, this year in January, I took some training for program management training. And what I learned about that is wonderful for me. I wanted to focus this on like, I was doing like a lot of vetting, making sure that like, how would this campaign would be beneficial for everyone? So it doesn't be duplicated. Cause I don't like to make like a campaign where it's that like, it's already duplicated with work. But this campaign is really unique in a way. And I'm really honored that like, the DD Council was able just to help start this campaign of this I had in mind. So what is the Judith campaign? So it is building awareness and acceptance of the diversity and contributions of DC community of people with disabilities and their families, care partners, and supporters. Honestly, the idea came in mind also is I wanted to make sure that like this campaign could honor the late and great Judy Heumann for all of her amazing work that she was able to do for DC, for her state that she lives in New York, and for the disability community, because she is pretty much like pretty much the face of the ADA in a way. And basically, and she taught us different values of creating space for disability people just to share their stories with the world. as we all know, we're all living in this world. And this world is a beautiful place where people get to express themselves, people get to share about different things, and etc. So I wanted for this campaign just to amplify those voices and hear everyone's truth. So as you see here, these are some of 7 individuals that like we use for last year just to capture 7 first videos. So as on here on this picture, you got Susan McFadden Rasper. She works at ODR, Office of Disability Rights. You got Matthew McCollin, also works at Office of Disability Rights. You have Donna and Ricardo Thornton. You got Thomas Mangum, who's part of Project Action. You got Angie Shelby, who is our chair for the Developmental Disability Council. You got Bob Williams, who also worked with Judy Hillman and friends with Judy Hillman. And then you got my brother Keith Wright, which basically he works at like a family-owned business known as Twisted at the Wharf. So basically, it's like a family-owned business right next to the seafood market at the Wharf. And basically, wonderful for him, he was working there for like almost like 6 years now. He started as like an intern, and then he worked his way up towards the general manager. And wonderful for his work there, I know that like they always get like interns for the summer, and Keith always be their mentor. But these are the 7 people that we pretty much interviewed for part 1 of this Junif campaign. So the Junif campaign got several topics that I wanted to focus on, which basically it will be important for us just to spotlight people in a way. Basically, first thing is justice for all. Talk about that justice that people have. Talk about that right that they have. Next, the next key concept for topics with the gender campaign is uncomfortable conversations and honoring that advocacy can be hard. Basically, I know where I had my IEP meetings back in the days when I was in school, I know that my parents had questions that they wanted to ask my teachers or my staff, but they couldn't due to how uncomfortable it was. But I always felt that uncomfortable conversations are needed because it get to help us create that safe space with myself, with you all, and with everyone with IDD in a way. The key concept is direct support and the care workforce. I always feel that like we have these amazing DSPs, direct support professionals, where they do amazing work, but I always feel that like they're not getting spotlighted enough for the amazing work that they pretty much take out of their time, and just to like help support an individual with IDD. I feel that like that's really disappointing because they live in like a world that is really unique. And basically, I know that like we got direct support professionals, but I know that like we probably got loved ones that we pretty much taking care of in a way. And sometimes, so we get that experience of how as a direct support professionals do their work daily. So that's when it's important just to hear aspects for them, because they're living in a unique world where they're making sure that like individuals that the people that we serve pretty much get to thrive. The fourth one, it was inclusion, but I feel that like inclusion probably wasn't a good word for it. So the fourth key topic that is focused on the Judah campaign is intersectionality identity. I know that like in the DD Council over the past like past few years now that we keep talking about the word intersectionality and how we all are different and how we all bring a different identity, rather towards in public, rather towards in work, or rather towards our home. That's really important because we all got different things that like it makes our identity. As you all know, wonder for me, I'm an African American who has a disability, developmental disability. And basically, so wonder for me, I live in Ward 8, which you all know that Ward 8 basically probably doesn't get recognized enough because due to like everything that's going on there. So those are my intersectionality identity. So that's what makes me unique in a way. And talk about intersectionality identity is really important because basically we meet people every day and we don't know about their identity or what they bring or what they could bring towards a workplace. So that's really important that like we could be highlighting. I would say that like the first 7 that we interviewed that you just saw, part 1 is focused on that intersectionality identity. And with that, I was going to show like a video soon about it. 5th one is Do Our Eyes, honoring individual stories. We all live in like, we all see the world differently. And basically, you know, just making sure that like we take a deep dive at one person's perspective of how they view their world is really important because basically it gets to really, it could really be mind-blowing. I know that like basically we work with people every day, we talk to people every day, but basically stuff, so when they get out of bed and go do wherever they, go to work or wherever they have to do, like they see their world differently. So I want to capture that because many people with IDD or without IDD have a really different perspective on their own world. And then finally, how can we create the world we want? That's really important. I know that like basically stuff, Junie Human, she was able just to create the world that like she truly felt that like she want. So I know that like we all do this amazing work anyway. And we heard amazing different projects that each organization on this provider form share with today. So how can we continue just to basically help each other out in a way, just to create the world that we want to. And it shouldn't be it should be no surprise towards it. Those six key topics is an acronym for Judy. So using the first letters of these 6 acronyms, it spell out Judy. So basically, so that's when the honoring comes in. So using Judith's name and making acronyms for 6 different key topics that like I want to focus on in a way. I feel that like that is unique in a way. Basically, you know, just making sure that like that this could hold some kind of memory of Judy Human for all the work that like she was able to do in a way, and be able just to start plotting out different people who express these 6 different aspects in a way. And basically, so this one makes the campaign unique. So this is the introduction video. So I could be showing 2 videos. So hopefully you all should be able to hear. Can you all hear? You can put thumbs up. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
The Judith Campaign, amplifying voices, honoring truth.
I would just describe the Judith Campaign as the opportunity just to give many people the opportunity just to share their voices and their stories, because hearing a person's voice says like a lot of things. It'd be really impactful. People are able to. Yes.
Is it just sound or is it supposed to be a video? Because if the link pulled up on another screen, you would have to share that screen.
So let me just share that screen real quick. Thank you, Charlisa. There we go. So I just rewind it back a little bit.
Yes, we can see it. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, you're welcome. I would just describe the Judith Campaign as the opportunity This will give many people the opportunity to share their voices and their stories. Because hearing a person's voice says like a lot of things. It'd be really impactful. People are able just to begin to do self-advocacy. Judy Human, she made that possible for us in DC, for the disability community here. She was like a really well-known advocate, and also was a huge role for the ADA. So the American Disability Act, she gave the opportunity for many people just to be included in her work. And basically, you know, I feel that she just left a little bit of her spirit within all of us just to be able to shine through any accomplishment and be in spotlight in a way. And just because of Judy Human gone, doesn't mean that we don't got the amazing Judy Humans individuals out in DC. Her work in us is still moving forward. And this campaign is pretty much just to honor her in a way. I want people just to see what it means to be an advocate, how we see our world, do the advocacy world, or even on our community that we're going to every day. And why is it important for us is to begin just to continue doing the work that we do. So that's a little bit, so that's a first video. So that is an introduction video. And basically it's really unique. You know, just able just to talk about this idea in like a video, just showing. So I got one more video I want to show you all. So me personally, I felt that so the next video I want to show you all is Susan McFadden Westwood video. As I talk about intersectionality, her video is amazing. So I'm just gonna pull that up for you all real quick. And okay, can you all see? And so I'm about to play it.
I spend a lot of times looking at sky. Trees are my favorite. They remind me of people with disabilities. There are so many different types of trees. And you can see broken branches that are beautiful. You can see trees that are bent and been thrown down. They're still beautiful. So when I look at trees, it's like looking at humans. Because I think we all come with beauty and we all come with something that the world needs.
The Judith Campaign, amplifying voices, honoring truth.
Looking up at the sky and looking at trees, I find answers. They're thought-provoking, and I think that everyone should find things that provoke them into deep thoughts, because those things help me to calm myself down. Like, I guess I don't tell too many people this, but you know, I have faith and I believe that my God has a disability. And so I relate to a God with a disability because I was always told that you are made in the image of God. Because I do get worked up. I do hate the fact that I can't do a lot of things that's inside me to do, like to walk, go for walks. I can go out in the wheelchair, but I can't walk. And I never could take long strolls or walk out in the rain, things I like to do. But my God can't do those things either. And so that helps me to stay grounded and knowing that I have someone looking over me who understands me. I just look at life differently. Maybe I didn't get to climb a mountain or play sports and all this stuff, but you have to find the beauty that is inside of you and what you can do. And I was given the ability to help people and to have empathy and to recognize that humans are humans regardless to how they look or, you know, skin tone, height, weight, disability. It doesn't matter, they're still human.
So as I said before, Susan McFadden Westwood video is wonderful because it touched on her intersectionality identity in a way. And basically, the other videos are really unique in a way. So this is like a really unique campaign where like if it really focus on basically different topics or different things that like a person is pretty much thinking about every day, or even basically be how does one person see their own world in a way that could be different. And I think this is the last slide. So this is the Judah campaign website. So basically, if you click on the hyperlink at the bottom, you will see it would take you towards more information about the Judah campaign, and basically, you will see 8 videos. So you will see the introduction video you just saw, and the 7 other videos that like basically that pretty much are available that you all could look at, share with people, with others, etc. And I will say that like starting this year, we are in the round 2 of the Judah campaign, which it focuses on employment. So basically, so we put together some questions just to ask individuals who want to be part of the Judah campaign about how did they see their like their workplace perspective. So, coming to work, what kind of values that they pretty much cherish while at work in a way. So that's pretty much it. I guess I can put my email in the chat. It's really is kevin.wright@dc.gov, but I will put it in the chat so you all could either reach out if you know any people who wants to be showcased for the Judah campaign. That would be wonderful. For me, I always want to look for people just to get the opportunity just to share what it means just to be like just live into this beautiful world that like Judah human, and then all of them are able just to create for people. So I want to thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Kevin. Those were beautiful videos. Thanks for sharing. Next up on our agenda, Winslow Woodland from the Developmental Disabilities Administration here at DDS is going to provide an overview of the new CMS access rule.
Good afternoon, everyone. As Director Reese stated, I am Winslow Woodland. I also am the Deputy Director for the Developmental Disabilities Administration, which is the main reason why we need to give an overview on the access rule. In a planning meeting for this forum, I just happened to mention the access rule, and it was, for lack of a better word, foreign to many people. It wasn't a common situation. So the access rule is the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services, and this is my summary, general summary, it's the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services attempt to right-size the quality, the access, and for lack of a better word, bring us into the present day relative to home and community-based services, as well as other services supported that people are supported with. So next slide. So CMS implemented the rule in May of 2024. The draft was shared with states, giving states an opportunity to comment, and state associations. Just so you know, like we had the National Association of State Directors for Developmental Disabilities, but there are other stakeholders that are also weighing in or did weigh in on this access rule. So the access rule has several key components, and each component or section of the access rule has a time frame for implementation, and those timeframes range from 1 year up to 6 years. And the 1 year, for example, and you'll see as I move forward in the slide, is the transparency. So, but the primary focus is to ensure beneficiaries can access covered services, and that's a critical function of Medicaid programs and the top priority of the Health and Human Services Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. And I'm going to talk about 5 primary areas. There's an emphasis on person-centered care, stressing accountability, transparency, and experiences of the Medicaid beneficiaries and accessing care. Establishing advisory committees. State Medicaid agencies will be mandated to transition what are called medical care advisory committees to dual framework committees consisting of Medicaid advisory committees, MEC, and a beneficiary advisory council. So right now, many of you on this call may participate in our waiver committee, and there are other stakeholder committee groups that are exclusive for beneficiaries and are primarily focused on the experiences that beneficiaries are having relative to receiving services and supports. And this is going to be interesting because it's going to sort of mesh these committees together, sort of. And then there's an emphasis on the enhancement of grievance and incident tracking, which requires the centralization of tracking of grievances and incidents. And at DDS, DDA, we kind of are ahead of the game with this, in that we have the ability right now to, we have a grievance process, and we have what is described as a very comprehensive incident management process. Also, the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services wants to update the quality measure reporting for the home and community-based services waiver. So states will be required to, and you can go to the next slide, required to talk about its measure sets, next slide. And there will be mandatory and voluntary measures as spelled out. And just to go back, all of this is predicated largely on the Affordable Care Act, which is primary concern. Many of you may be familiar with the Affordable Care Act, but its primary focus is to ensure accessible and affordable care for all Americans. Now, when we talk about an access rule as is defined in this presentation, much of it doesn't seem to primarily focus on access exclusively, but access needs to have quality, it needs to have oversight, it needs to have transparency, and those are some of the primary components. And lastly, the transparency piece is to ensure that resources are available on the web, and states will be required to develop and maintain transparent website resources that include details on rates and reimbursement methodologies. And once again, DDS, DDA already posts its rates online relative to its home and community-based services rate. All right, let me see, next slide, please. And CMS just wants to improve the access of the services for the people enrolled, but believing that its current regulations are a bit outdated and that many of the current regulations need to be more comprehensive and consistent across all delivery systems. So what that means is that if you are someone who receives services from the Department of Behavioral Health, for example, and the Department of Disability Services, your experiences as a consumer may not be much different to you in the future, but relative to how quality metrics are defined for DBH, this rule will ensure that state agencies have one primary system of quality. And we at DDS, DDA, we feel like our quality management system is pretty strong currently. Next slide, please. The access rule also goes across the Medicaid fee-for-service and managed care delivery systems, and also includes the home and community-based services waiver. Next slide. And I talked about the emphasis on person-centered care. The rule stresses accountability, transparency, and the experiences of the beneficiary in accessing services. Next slide. And that we also feel like we have a framework for accountability, transparency, and receiving data on the experiences of the people that we support now, but we're going to have to improve a bit relative to the rule. And then the committees that I spoke of, the medical care advisory committees and the Medicaid advisory committee and the beneficiary advisory council are also going to be requirements. And to some extent, many states, including DC, have some versions of these already, but the cohesive nature of these committees in terms of how they will be implemented across all district government service delivery systems, there sort of will be one requirement that goes across all of these. Next slide, please. And something that I'm really proud of is our critical incident system. Many of you may be aware that there were articles written about the quality of services in certain states that prompted the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services and the Office of the Inspector General to go out and review states to look at the oversight of services and supports of people living in the community as well as institutions, and they were alarmed at some of the findings. So this also was one of the key components of the access rule as it's written, to ensure that states have a critical incident oversight, management, and grievance system. And the District of Columbia currently does. DDS, DDA currently has grieving and an incident tracking system. Next slide, please. And the requirements under the access, I know this is small print, but this is these are the actual critical incidents that must be included in states' incident management system. And those familiar with our current system will note that we already investigate each of these listed as serious reportables and have been doing so for years. Next slide, please. Another interesting feature of the access rule relative to critical incidents is the requirement that Medicaid fraud control units use data and triangulate that data with the state delivery systems and also child protective services and adult protective services to ensure that incidents are managed in a cohesive and comprehensive fashion, but also that incidences of fraud are also factored into those data sets. Next slide, please. There is also a requirement that there be new quality measure sets. And many of our providers, well, all of our providers are aware of our requirement for quality management within their respective organizations. But the need to update some of those measure sets is a key component of the access rule, and we will be looking very closely at our current systems of measuring quality and ensuring that we're in compliance with these measure sets. Next slide, please. And here are some of the requirements under the rulemaking, and they're not unique to DDS, DDA now. We do currently have oversight and monitoring of quality assurance and quality improvement for our 1915C waiver program, which is where most of our people supported receive services. The Priority areas are person-centered planning, health and wellness, access, beneficiary protections, and quality improvement. And then the implementation of the new reporting requirements will replace the 86% measured threshold from the 2014 requirement. So what that means is currently our metrics, our quality metrics must meet at minimum 86%. And we have 37 key areas that we measure quality for our waiver, and we thankfully have been meeting this criteria. Hello? Oh. And to ensure consistency.
Go ahead. Yeah. Feel free.
Across
Yes, I'm in the office.
All right, and so we will be updating our next slide, please. So when we talk about some of the areas covered, access, this gives you the definition of access, is defined as purposes for the measure sets at the level to which the beneficiary, the family caregiver, the natural support is aware of and able to access resources. And examples are peer support, respite, crisis support information and referral, and support overall well-being. Next slide, please. And rebalancing, an area that some are familiar with is that the amount of money spent on institutions to support people versus community, home and community-based settings, there is a drive to ensure that those resources are more rebalanced. So at one point in time, there was a clear and overwhelming distinction between the amount of money spent in institutions and home and community-based services waiver. But what we've seen in the last, I'd say 4 or 5 years, is that the gap has been shortened, whereby there are more resources, monies being spent to support people in home and community-based settings waiver. And this is a requirement to sort of, I guess, solidify and ensure that this money is being spent to support people in less restrictive settings, keeping it comparable with institutional resource use. Next slide, please. And of course, community integration is the bedrock, if you would, of all home and community-based settings. And it is, again, reinforced in the access rule. This is primarily to ensure that we don't go back. You know, some people prefer to look at history and make changes and literally believe that things may have worked better in certain instances. Well, here CMS has said we will not be going backwards, we will be going forward and maintaining community integration, self-determination, independence, and empowerment, and full inclusion are primary tenets of the access rule. Next slide, please. This is just more information on defining what community integration is. Next slide, please. And there's also a requirement that there's transparency, and transparency with web resources. So we live in an age where you can find out just about anything you need to know by having access to a computer or a cell phone. Well, the access rule requires that we literally are an open book. We currently do have a web page at DDS, and the DDA services and resources are there, but we've gotten many comments from stakeholders, people supported, and the community providers also about our website. And so hopefully we'll be able to have resources made available through this access rule to improve how we are transparent with our web-based resources. But this is a basic requirement. And as you see, it's also going to be requiring states to put up payment rates and reimbursement methodologies. Well, we currently do that, but we also know, and I've read, I listened to a video from a parent advocate, and he talked about this expressly for a state that has their methodologies on the site, but again, they may not be very user-friendly. So something for us to think about. Next slide. On the website, we also will be required, all states will be required to, and these are the list of the requirements of the website, and not yet mentioned are E and F, which talks about timeliness, more specifically, how much time it takes for a person to receive the services that they need, and F, waiting list. Fortunately, in the District of Columbia, we have not yet had to implement a waiting list. If and when we do, this will be also a requirement that information on the waiting list, how long people have been on the waiting list, the current composition of the waiting list, who's on it, will have to be on that website. And also links for information related that may not be on the website will be required. Links will be required as well. Next slide, last slide. And so I know I've talked about a lot, and believe it or not, the rule is over 1,000 pages. So I didn't nearly touch 1,000 pages, but I tried to talk on the what I thought would be substantive for the community and the provider community to hear. Should you have questions that are not answered today, my email address as well as my telephone number are on this slide. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Winslow. I don't see any questions in the chat. I will say, just like the other presentation, there will be more information forthcoming as we move forward. This is really important information, as someone said in the chat. And as Winslow said, you can look online and find all of the commentary about the access rule. Shasta and I spent 3 full days in a conference just last month covering the many aspects of the access rule. So it is very complex. One of the takeaways for me was implementation is all the way out to 2028 in some instances. So, and the other was that here in the district, things look, especially for DDA, very good. They are looking to get other states really up to where the district is in terms of incident management, quality assurance, and really having great systems of support, quality oversight, and access to information. And so as we move forward on this, we'll be keeping everyone informed. It is 1:28. If there are no other questions, everyone have a great weekend. A cool front has come in. It is much nicer out there than it was before. So I hope everyone enjoys the weekend, and we will see you again next month.